All right, let's talk about studying. We're going to dive into how to make it actually work for you. Forget just putting in more hours. We're going to build a toolkit of 10 proven methods that will help you study smarter, not harder. You know that feeling, right? You spend hours with your books. You're highlighting, you're rereading everything, and then you close the book and it's like, poof, it all just vanishes. It's so frustrating, but it's also super common. And today, we're going to fix that. Yup, you're in exactly the right place. Because the secret isn't about studying more, it's about studying smarter. So let's get into it and build you a personal toolkit for learning that actually sticks. Okay, let's dive in. First things first, we have to talk about the foundation. This is all about getting your mind and your space ready for success before you even crack open a book. First up, method number 1, the Pomodoro technique. Now, the genius of this is how simple it is. You just study in a super focused burst for 25 minutes. Then you take a quick 5-minute break. Do that 4 times, and you've earned yourself a longer break. It's an absolute game changer for avoiding burnout and keeping your mind sharp. Method number 2 is for those huge, overwhelming projects. You know, the ones that make you just want to give up before you start? Well, the trick is you don't tackle the huge project. You break it down into tiny, manageable pieces. This way, you kill that feeling of dread and actually build momentum. And hey, celebrating those small wins, that's the fuel that keeps you going. And method 3 is something we are all guilty of sacrificing, taking care of ourselves. It's easy to treat our brain like a computer, but it's not. It needs the right fuel to run. So getting enough sleep, eating well, moving your body, that's not a distraction from studying. It is essential to studying effectively. Okay, so we've laid our foundation for focus. Now it's time to get into the work itself. This next part is all about a huge shift in mindset, going from being a passive consumer of information to an active participant in your own learning. So let's talk about method number 4, becoming an active reader. I mean, think about it. How often do you just skim a chapter or highlight a bunch of sentences? It feels productive, but it leads to really low retention. The goal is to get active. Take notes, ask questions, try to summarize the main ideas in your own words. That's how you really understand something. And method 5 is mind mapping. Look, our brains don't think in neat, straight lines, so why should our notes have to? A mind map lets you create this visual web of ideas. It helps you connect the dots between different concepts and see the whole picture, which does wonders for your memory. All right, so you've been actively engaging with all this new information. That's awesome. But how do you get it to move from your short-term memory into your long-term memory? Well, that's what this next section is all about. I want you to meet one of the most powerful memory techniques out there. Method number 6, spaced repetition. This is the total opposite of cramming. You know, when you study like crazy the night before a test and then forget it all the day after, spaced repetition fixes that. You review material in increasing intervals over time, which makes the memory stronger and way more durable. And a perfect tool for this is method number 7, using flashcards. They're a classic for a reason, but the real key here is active recall. You're forcing your brain to pull the information out of storage without any hints. That's so much more powerful than just passively rereading your notes. So you're practicing pulling information out of your brain, but are you ready to actually apply it, to put it to the test? That brings us right to our 8th method. Go find practice questions. Get your hands on past exams. This is where the rubber really meets the road. You're not just remembering facts anymore. You're using them to solve problems. And maybe most importantly, you find your weak spots before the real test, when you can still do something about them. Okay, so far, pretty much everything we've talked about has been about studying solo. But learning doesn't have to be a lonely activity. Let's move on to our final section, what I like to call the social supercharge. You've probably heard this quote before, but it's one of the truest things ever said about learning. Seriously. To teach is to learn. And that's exactly why Method 9 works so well. When you try to explain a concept to somebody else, a friend, a family member, anyone, it forces you to organize your own thoughts. And believe me, it will instantly shine a spotlight on any parts you don't fully understand yourself. It's an incredible way to solidify what you know. And our final method, number 10, is tapping into the power of a study group. When you work with others, you get to hear totally new perspectives, you get more practice explaining your ideas, and frankly, it just keeps you motivated and accountable. It can turn studying from a chore into something active and even fun. So there you have it, a full toolkit to completely upgrade the way you learn. We've gone from setting the stage for focus to actively engaging with material to locking it in for the long haul. But remember, this is not a one-size-fits-all deal. The real magic happens when you experiment and build a system that works perfectly for you.
And that leads to one final, simple question. Don't feel like you have to do all of this at once. Just start somewhere. So, looking back at everything we've covered, what's the first new method you're going to try?